Hey y'all, and welcome to a new video. Today I would love to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of Spooky October. As always, thank you to Storygraph for existing, because without Storygraph I would not have these stats. I read 13 books last month. It equaled out to 5,047 pages. If you look at the moods, okay, we had 10 labeled emotional, 10 labeled adventurous, and 7 labeled tense. With page number, I had 4 books under 300 pages. I had 7 books between 300 and 500 pages, and then I had 2 books over 500 pages. With genre, there were 9 books labeled dystopian, also 9 books labeled YA, and 8 books labeled romance. Those were my most read genres last month. And then my average star rating was kind of low. I had 2.85 average star rating last month, with 1 1-star, 4 2-stars, 5 3-stars, 2 4-stars, and only 1 5-star. All right, let's talk about the books. So I decided to read the entire Shatter Me series at the end of September and then throughout October, and I did post 2 videos for that series. I will post them down below, just the first half of the Shatter Me series, and then the second video is obviously the last half of the Shatter Me series. I'm not going to go into depth of like what happens in these books because I do that very in-depth in the videos, but basically we are working with a superhero society here, and we have our main character who has been locked away from society due to her superhero powers, and then she is released and invited to join a superhero society, and a lot more happens from there. Okay, we uncover so much, and I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but please do go watch those videos because it was a lot of fun to make. It was a lot of fun to discover all of the plot twists and craziness that happened in those books. I'm just going to go briefly through them for this video. So the first book that I finished in October was the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series called Ignite Me. The series is by tahereh. I did end up giving this one 2 stars because I didn't like it. I really didn't like the end of this book, and this was originally supposed to be the end of the series, but then it was just so popular that tahereh decided to put out 3 more books and 3 more novellas to supplement the story, and I'm really glad that she did, because I think that the next book, book 4, was amazing, but book 3, I just simply did not like the end of it. The climax lasted 1 whole page, a half a page even. We had been ramping up for something so big and bad, and then for the climax to literally just be, you know, 1 shot to the head, and that was the end of it. I did not appreciate that or think that it was really good or fun or entertaining, and so that one got 2 stars from me. The next book that I finished was My Hero Academia Volume 40. Do y'all know who this is? Anyone? Like, listen, you either get it or you don't get it. You're either a My Hero fan or you're not, and if you are and you're caught up, girl, this book had me gagged to the utmost degree. I could not handle what I was reading in here. I literally burst into tears. When I saw this, I burst into tears. It was crazy. I am on volume 41 right now. I am taking it extremely slow, and volume 42 actually just came in the mail because it was just released. I'm taking it slow because I don't want the series to end. I really don't want the series to end. This is of course by Kohei horikoshi, and just like all of the other My Hero novels, all of the other 40 novels that I've read from this manga series, it gets 5 stars. Back to Shatter Me, because next I read Restore Me from tahereh. This is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series, and I gave it 4 stars. It is the highest rated book out of the Shatter Me series for myself. I loved how this one ended. This one unlocked just new power and new story that I did not see coming at all, and I literally freaked out. Literally in the video when I read this, I was aghast. I could not believe what I was reading. I did not know it was going to go that route, and I'm so glad that it did. It was so cool. tahereh popped off with that one, and I've read her other series, This Woven Kingdom, which I loved. Shatter Me is below that. I did not love Shatter Me as much as I love This Woven Kingdom, but I saw a glimpse of just how good of a writer she is and how fun of a writer she is with this 4th book, with Restore Me. And it reminded me of why I love tahereh and like why I started reading the Shatter Me series in the first place, because of how great This Woven Kingdom was. Hi, Editing Emma here. I do just want to apologize for how little information I am giving about the Shatter Me series in this video. Again, I implore you to go watch the actual consuming series video because I go way more in depth. There is so much to unveil. It would just be impossible to, again, talk about everything that happens in these books or exactly my feelings a month after I've read them, and also after just going so in depth for 2 videos. So really, if you want to know what happens and how crazy the series gets or the negatives that I had with the series, do go watch those videos. They are linked down below. I do just want to apologize for how non-descriptive and not in depth. I am going into these books in this video, but I promise like there's a reason both of those other videos are like an hour long. So go watch those videos if you want to know more about the Shatter Me series. It was fun to get through, and thank you for watching this video. Please enjoy the rest of it. So that was the fourth book, and then right after that I read Shadow Me, which is 4.5 on the Shatter Me series, so there's a lot of novellas in between. I gave this one 3 stars. I think my review was literally just okay. Like, it's just a supplemental story of one of the characters in there. It moves the story along just like one step. I could see it not being completely necessary for the story, but if you're a fan of the characters, like, you gotta read them all, you know what I mean? After Shadow Me was Defy Me. This is book 5 in the Shatter Me series. I give this one 3 stars, and to be completely honest, I don't have a huge memory of it. Like, I remember book 4 and I remember book 6 really well from last month, but book 5 eludes me. What happened in book 5? I guess you'll just have to go watch my Shatter Me video to find out, and I guess I will have to too, to refresh myself, because it clearly left my brain as soon as I read it. It was a very vibey book, okay? Like, I was in it, in the vibes when I read it, but then as soon as I did not need to remember it anymore, my brain allowed myself to forget it, I guess. After Defy Me was Reveal Me, which is another novella after the 5th book. I gave this one 3 stars as well. Again, it was another supplemental novel designed solely for one character's development and that character only. It was cute. Like, I mean, it just gives us more insight on that one character, and she loves to do that. So, you know, if you're a fan, you're a fan, and you like it, you like it. I gave it 3 stars because I was just very mid about it. Ooh, next I finished The Scavenger Hunt. This is by Emeralds in the Dark. This is a Hermione fanfic. This one has a cool premise, okay? It's after the war, Harry won the war, and the students who were not able to go to 7th year, so Harry, Hermione, Ron, Draco, other people, other Slytherins, okay, who were all like fighting in the war during year 7, they come back for a year 8 at Hogwarts, which is a trope that I've been like really excited to get into with Hermione fanfiction, which is the only fanfiction I literally read. It's a trope where there's an 8th year because they did not get to have a 7th year, and I think that's kind of cool. So they come back to 8th year and they're chosen to participate in this unity project where they are matched up with someone that they're not friends with, and they have to compete in this tournament, and whoever wins this tournament gets to make one wish, and that wish will come true no matter what it is. So they have to like work together to solve the puzzles, and then also work together to come up with one wish for whoever wins. And so there's a lot of pairings in this book. It's like 6 pairings, 5 pairings, I don't quite remember, but you know, each Gryffindor gets with a Slytherin basically, and it's very hot and steamy, and it was fun. Definitely a very clever idea. Next, I read The Architect from Nikki Sloane. This is the 3rd book in the Nashville Neighbor series. Listen, I love this series, okay? And the other 2 books that I've read from this series, like, they're good, okay? They're really good. However, The Architect, I'm not gonna lie, I did not enjoy it that much. I did end up giving it just 2 stars because I genuinely didn't like any of the characters. I did not care about their relationship at all. I was simply reading it for the steamy scenes. I was simply reading it for the smut. And that's okay. That's 100% valid for these books. It had one of the hottest sex scenes I've ever read in my entire life. I will say that. I was like, I'm blushing just thinking about it right now. We have our main character who falls in love with the next door neighbor architect. However, he is into BDSM, and she agrees to learn about this role of being a submissive with him. And pretty soon they enter in a 3rd character to the party. However, the architect technically doesn't want to share in real life, but he's fine with sharing with scenes. But then she ends up falling in love with the 3rd guy, and then they just have to like come together and communicate about creating this throuple situation. It was very hot. Okay, that's all I can say about it. Other than those steamy scenes, like, nothing to write home about. That's why I got 2 stars. All right, we are finishing off the Shatter Me series. The next book I read was Imagine Me from Tahereh. This is book 6. I gave it 2 stars. I was so over it. I was so over it. I will say, listen, I think that I was very heavily debating just giving it 1 star because of how over the series I was. I was done with the juvenileness. The writing style was getting on my nerves. I was 6 books deep at this point, but there is one turning point that happened in this book that I thought was so cool, and I'm not going to get into it because it will be spoilers. Please go watch those videos because the twist was awesome and it really made the series worth reading for that point. But overall, I'm not a person who likes endings anyways, especially if it's just complete happily ever after. It's gonna be like, okay, like we did all this for what? Like, I'm sorry, I'm a weirdo. I like my characters to suffer. I really do, sadly. And if there's not a level of macabre or depression to feel after reading a series this long, you know, it's not gonna be memorable to me, unfortunately. You know, I think about Harry Potter, I think about the Hunger Games. Those were very formidable series that I read as a young child that stuck with me because of how horrifying and the trials and tribulations and loss that these characters had to go through to get to the end. So even though they both have happily ever after endings, they're not happily ever after books. In the Shatter Me series, you could make an argument that it's not a happily ever after book, but I am gonna make the argument that it was a happily ever after book because of the way that everything folded together. And then going into that, we have Believe Me by Tahereh, which is the final novella in the Shatter Me series, and this just further argues the happily ever after ending that I'm sure everyone who read this book wanted. Like, how could you not want these characters to be happily ever after everything that they've been through? I get it, but it was just like another book of happily ever after I just read this one, the sixth one, right? I did end up giving it 3 stars. There were parts in it that I enjoyed more than the 6th book. That's that. Good for them. I'm glad that I'm done with the series though. Next, listen, I did not have a super great reading month last month, and that makes me so much more excited for this month because I have a super stacked plan. Okay, if you have not been watching my shorts or you don't follow me on TikTok, I've been doing 75 booked, which is for the last 75 days of the year. You work as hard as you can to push yourself to reach your reading goals, and one of my reading goals was definitely to just read more 2025 releases, and so I am definitely getting through that TBR of 2025 releases that I wanted to get to before the end of the year, and I've been having fun. I've been having a lot of fun with everything that I've been reading in November so far. All that to say that the next book I read was 3 Shattered Souls from my Corland. This is the 3rd book in the Broken Blades trilogy. It's the final book, and I give it 1 star. I believe my review was literally, I'm free because I was finally free from that series. I do like to complete my series for the most part. I don't believe that there's any series that I've just started and then literally been like, I don't want to ever read any more of this. I usually soft DNF them, I'll put them on the back burner, or I just complete them as quickly as I can. And 3 Shattered Souls, I really wanted to know how it was going to end. I was extremely curious who was going to get the crown in the end, because these assassins, magicians, strongmen, this whole group of people that have been together since the 1st book have been doing all these trials and tribulations to get all of these magical, I don't want to say pieces of jewelry, but they're just magical items that other royalty has been after in order to live forever. And this group of people have been trying to thwart their plan the whole book. They've been killing kings and queens along the way. I just really did not like the writing in it. I did not like any characters. And even if I liked the character in the 1st book, they eventually grew to get on my nerves throughout the 2nd and 3rd book. So I was just happy to be out of this world. I did not like this book. I'm sorry, okay? Sometimes you read a bad book and that's that. All that to say that the last 2 books I read last month were really good. First, I read Renegades from Marissa Meyer. This is the 1st book in the Renegade series. I gave it 3 stars. This is the story of a superhero society. Yes, it was a very superhero-filled month with Shatter Me, My Hero, and Renegades, okay? We have our main character who is part of the anarchists. They are a group of people who believe that the good guys, or the renegades, the superheroes, the people who are in charge of the law, are not actually doing a good job of keeping the law. They tend to break their own rules. They are very hypocritical, and they're quick to just simply see someone doing a bad thing and immediately labeling them as a bad guy without any information on why they're actually doing this thing. It's a very black and white kind of society, and our main character has kind of grown up in this world of being an anarchist. She also has a secret identity, and she meets this boy named Adrian, who is the adopted son of basically the president of the superheroes. Okay, he is like the well-regarded leader of all the superheroes. I think his name is like Captain Cronium. He's extremely strong, one of the best of the best. And he also is living a double life because he has his power. He works with the renegades and the superheroes, but then he will also sometimes turn into the Sentinel, and that person kind of lives off the grid, does not follow the rules. He sees the issues that the superheroes, the good guys, are having and how they abuse their power. They meet as themselves as Nova and Adrian, but then they also meet as their alter egos as Nightmare and the Sentinel. Like, her as Nova thinks the Sentinel is bad, but she thinks Adrian is good, and Adrian likes Nova, but he thinks that Nightmare is bad. So they're trying to fight each other, but they're like getting together, not knowing that they're literally the same person. So it's so cool. And Marissa Meyer is such a good author. I love reading her books. I think that with her series, this happened to me with the Lunar Chronicles when I first read Cinder. The first book is really slow to get into. It's like hard to immerse myself into the science fiction dystopian society. But then when you get into the second book in the series, which I'm getting into now, I read Archenemies, which is the second book in the Renegades series. Once you get to the second book, you just breeze through it. I literally read this in one day. I read all of this in like 28 hours maybe. I gave this one 4 stars because it just ramps up so good. She's so good at continuing a series, and her first book's just, for me, it's hard to jump into the dystopian society that she has created. But then once I finish the series, I'm like, I have to go back and reread that. Like when I read the Lunar Chronicles, I was dying to get back into the first book and reread Cinder because of how good the character development had been throughout all of the books in the Lunar series. And I can see myself falling for that same shtick with this series, because I gave the first book 3 stars just because I had issues with the pacing and with myself enjoying the book, honestly. But then by the time I got into this one, I could not put it down. I do have the 3rd book from the library, Supernova, so hopefully this will be another read from this month so I can know how the series ends. I'm really excited to get into it. Well, you guys, that was my reading wrap up for October. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have you read any of these books? Did you watch my Shatter Me series? Let me know if you liked it or not. If you've read the Shatter Me series by yourself, let me know how you feel about the series. I would love to have somebody to talk to about with it, or talk about it with. I don't know. If you've read the Broken Blades trilogy, I would love to know your thoughts, because I want to know if I'm alone in disliking it or if there's another perspective that I can gain from someone who did like the series. So leave that in the comments down below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support, especially if you are a subscriber coming back to watch another video of mine. Thank you so much for that support. I really do appreciate it. If you are new to this channel, consider subscribing so you don't miss any other book or movie content that I make in the future. If you like this video, give it a like. All of my social media are in the description box below, so don't forget to follow me on all of that to keep up with me daily, I guess. And I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Bye!